So, welcome everybody to the NTR training grounds. I am your coach, I guess. Tonyon the Onion, that's like my full legal name that I use for tournaments, but you know, Tonyo is just fine. A little about me. So, Grand Blue Fantasy vs. Rising is not my first video game. I played Smash Ultimate for 1,000 hours as Byleth, which, I mean, honestly, I just like the character, but she happened to be very good. Like she happened to be very good at anti-air. I also played Ryu in Street Fighter 6. Well, I still play him technically, so yeah. And as you might know, I play Narmaya in Rising, like Narmaya, Catalina, Siegfried, a bit of Lyul, Vasaraga. Some are gonna say I play the whole roster, which is until today inaccurate, but we'll get there. We'll get there eventually. Before we start, quick disclaimers. Obviously, like I'm basing this presentation on the version 2.40, which is the current version of the game. Obviously, with time, with patches, with changes, a lot of things may or may not change. Also, something you will hear me say very frequently is that it's gonna be character dependent. Like some characters can do better than most. Some other things characters cannot do as well. So yeah, keep that in mind as we go through the material. The reason why I did this presentation is because I noticed, like going into Rising, that all anti-airing is treated like this high-level elite skill, while I was just I was just fine. And I received a lot of comments that, oh my god, even from master players and from still fairly decent players at the game, that apparently my anti-airs are so goated. So I guess there you go. The reason why you should probably learn how to anti-air, the most obvious one is, well, big damage, depending there we go. Depending on your character, you may get 3k, 4k off of a simple like non-counter hit. You may also blow your opponent up, given the proper conditions, the proper resources. Space control is obviously one of the other benefits. Like you are the one who let's say, if your opponent is prevented from jumping, they cannot use the airspace to move and to approach you. So that eliminates. That's what I was mentioning in the fourth point, lighter mental stack. So you can remove the possibility of them jumping from the possible actions your opponent can do. Some characters rely on their air options every now and then. So if you ever fought an Narmaya, like she can just flip every now and then if you allow her to. If you fought a Zeta, she's gonna do Zeta things, and so on and so forth. If your opponent adapts and starts respecting your anti-airs, well, that's a win for you. That you can focus on honest Street Fighter footsies, because this Grand Blue game is very honest and a very traditional Street Fighter game. And if your opponent doesn't adapt and keeps jumping, it's GG, shake my hand, and GG, go next. I still remember my a small ranked set that I did when I was still in S rank, which is not very long ago. I feel like that was ages ago now. I was fighting a Lucilius whose only action was to jump at me and press a button. He got anti-aired once, twice, thrice. How do you say that? How do we go beyond that? 4 times, 5 times. And at some point he just stopped playing. Like we did our first game. He just I took the first round. I kept anti-airing. The guy just dropped the controller and I got the perfect, and I got my promotion from that. So yeah, maybe you're fighting these jumping demons in your games, in your tournaments. So yeah, you should probably learn how to make them respect you, how to make them fear you. Also, I have prepared something very special. Like, this is one of the things I prepared. I I sleep. I As I briefly mentioned, like, I play Siegfried every now and then, and this guy is kind of good, kind of known for his damage. Yeah, so I tried to replicate what a realistic scenario could be when someone is playing either as or against Siegfried. Also, what happens if you jump on Siegfried. So I'm gonna let the VOD speak for itself. And that is 13,000 HP. She started at 2 BP, which is kind of reasonable, like, at the point where you have your full meter. Siegfried has his 2 stocks, but I mean, it's Siegfried. Like, does it matter at this point? Like, if he has his things or not? So yeah, please do not jump on Siegfried. And if you do, I mean, I guess you can only blame yourself. However, also I forgot to ask, like, is there like sound should be good. Okay, cool. I sound very French. Okay, cool. Understandable. Have a good day. So, as much as I hype up anti-airing and its importance and how you should do it all the time, it is not a free action. There are some risks to take into account. The first one is something that is probably something that you won't notice until much later, until you get slightly more advanced in the game. If you get hit while you're crouching, your opponent gets 1 extra frame of hit stun, which will allow them to do combos they would probably not be able to do in normal circumstances. There are extra hit stun frames that are added when you get counter hit, which is likely what's going to happen if you fail a 2H. A cognizant opponent will try to bait a 2H on anti-air if they see that you're doing that very often. By their nature, you are doing what amounts to be like what amounts to a static move, like you're staying in place. Hello, Tomzy. Like, you're staying in place, and your opponent is still moving. They're still jumping. They're still air dashing. They're still doing whatever. So there is some forethought that needs to be taken into account. That is especially true in Grand Blue, where I would say 90% of the roster has an option that, let's say, air stalls, that air dashes, that basically alters the standard jump arc. Like, instead of it just being a jump in, sometimes it's a double jump, sometimes it's in Lancelot's case, for example, like, he just pops from the top of the screen and just falls down like a Titanfall. If anyone likes Titanfall, please let me know. So yeah, a lot to take into account. A lot of character-based options that, well, I'm gonna say it again, that you need to take into consideration while you're fighting, when you're playing. And that amounts to, when the moment happens that your opponent leaves the air, you will need to make your decision very quickly. And the more options you have, ironically, the more cognizant you have to be to figure out what the correct option is. As an example, so we pre-jump and we grab them. I mean, if you're like shulking Xenoblade and you can read into the future, give it a shot. whenever you're learning a new character, and the one of the things I look at is how good the anti-air is. There are some specifics that I look for. If you go to the move list, which I don't know if anybody does, you might be able to see this property, unblockable midair, which it is, well, air unblockable. So yeah, go ahead, go ham and use it. Is it quick enough? Like, is it the standard 11 frames 2H, or is it more specific? Like, can it be charged? Is it like by default? Is it 12, 13 frames? Is it 14 frames in the case of Charlotta, which I believe is the longest a 2H can take, if I'm correct? If you're willing to risk it and go for an airthrow, like, is it the correct option? Is the opponent close enough? Also, does your 2H cover jump ins? Like, sorry, I'm gonna frame it. Frame it differently. If your opponent jumps in, if your opponent tries to cross you up, if your opponent tries to high jump or maybe do that funny air stall, does your 2H cover that? I'm gonna make dedicated time for questions if anybody has any. One of the examples of my personal 2Hs, my personal favorite 2Hs, is, well, Siegfried, as we just saw. If anybody's unfamiliar with these green and red boxes, basically the green box means where you can get hit, which we call the hurt box, and the red part is where you can hit the opponent, which is the hit box. This space where the hitbox does not, what do we say? How do we say it? Like, where there's a hitbox and there is no hurt box, we call this part a disjoint. And a disjoint is a very good property to have on your moves because you can essentially hit your opponents while staying completely safe. The same goes for Beelzebub. Don't mind the image scaling, but even in game, this 2H can reach very high and can cover a lot of the pesky air stalls that I've been complaining about. I would say some other examples of potential 2Hs that you might encounter. First of all, is Vasaragas. It is immense. It covers all the arc in front of him, but as soon as you jump above, as soon as you like above him, you're completely safe, and he needs to rely on other options. Fairy's 2H is air blockable, so she might need to rely on other so she might need to rely on other moves, which is, yeah, I guess it's unfortunate. Also, I've been recommended not to use Vira's 2H. I should probably rely on Vira's close H because it has a much bigger hitbox than the 2H. It reaches further up, than that 2H. Any questions? I saw that Tomsy had one. How do we feel about air blockable NTRs into unblockable ones if real ideas? Go ahead. I mean, if it works, it works. But I mean, if you want to go from an air blockable into an air unblockable, why not just throw the air unblockable, like in the first place? I think it means unblockable setups. Do you know any another normal I could do as Charlotte for anti-airing? I think you still can use the close heavy. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the animation of the close heavy like goes into an arc above Charlotte, so it might be able to reach further or hit faster. I don't know if in this game I've been blocking the air or something like that. Someone's unlocked. I am curious what I block soon enough. So yeah, unlockable setups of sorts. Well, unlucky for Charlotte. Yeah, I mean, if you jump on her, it's GG's. One would say like it's fitting for the character, but yeah. So yeah, back into the unblockable setups thing. I mean, as long as you deal, I mean, yeah, as long as it works, go ahead. Like why it's fine. 2H Ferry 2H into DP. Yeah, I think Ferry. Yeah, Ferry's DP is unblockable. Yeah. But then again, my question will become, why need to rely on an unblockable set? Like, it depends on what you want. Yeah. If your goal is just to anti-air, why not go for Ferry's DP, for instance? And if your goal is to do an unblockable setup, then yeah, sure, go ahead. Yeah. I mean, fortunately enough, projectiles are air blockable. Like, imagine if, like, it's ironic coming from me, but imagine if Eustace's projectiles were air unblockable. This guy would be like top tier, and you'd be you'd be ready to win Evo tomorrow. I'm gonna hit you with one next time just to prove they can be unblockable at times. I'm ready. My body is ready. Ferry also uses close medium lot for anti-air, also her light DP to cannot block with 2H, but also 2H can outcon the angles, people to turn. That is true. That is true. I mean, it is kind of stretchy, although the image is not, doesn't, if I go back, yeah. What is a good character to train anti-airs with? That is, I mean, look, what you should look for is familiarity with your character's kit, because most, like, there is a common group of, like, Shotos basically kind of sort of behave the same. But in Charlotte's case, for instance, in Vicala's case, in Ferry's case, like, they behave differently from the standard 2H or DP group. So you have to practice your own character, see what you can and what you can't do, what you can and what you can't do. Instead of, like, I'm gonna present what I know best about Shotos, about Namai in general. You sort of have to do your own homework, but essentially, I will try to give you everything you need to keep in mind while training. Well, people keep joining. Hello, Raven. Hello, Kay. Yeah, also, Also, if you jump on Vayne, what happens next is completely on you. Just if you jump on Vayne, if you jump on Siegfried, I guess it's GG's. Like you can think about your loser set already, or in case you're already in loser set, you can think of what you're gonna make for dinner. Please do not jump on Vayne, and I cannot state that enough. I think his optimal deals maybe 60-70% damage, depending on again on resources and scan position. But yeah, please don't jump. Please do not jump on Vayne. All right. If nobody has any more questions, we can continue. So, in general, we have, let's say, two quote-unquote standard ways to anti-air in this game. We have the 2H, we have the DPs. Again, there might be character-specific options. There might be some people who should rather use close H, and so on. But the thing is, every tool has its use. So, for instance, if you need like a very quick option that has some kind of invulnerability, then DPs are the way to go. Otherwise, let's say if you if you can afford to take your time, so to speak, then 2H is a very good option, because oftentimes it is the dedicated anti-air tool for most characters. Again, disclaimer, depends on the character, depends on what you can and cannot do. Which leads to the question, it's all nice and funny, but how exactly do you practice? So it turns out my recording kind of fucked up, so I have to do this section all over again. It's fine. So, anyway, how exactly do you put anti-airs into practice? How exactly do you practice them? Well, obviously you're going to go to training mode with the character of your choice. There are a couple settings that you can play with, that you can tweak in order to figure out, let's say, what are your conversions. They will depend, obviously your opponent needs to be jumping. They can block, I mean, it doesn't change much since you're using, hopefully, air unblockable moves. What you will need to take special care of is the option of counter hits, because there are two types of anti-airs. Well, basically, generally, like the first one is the normal hit, where the opponent quickly rises up again, and the other one is the counter hit, where you get your chunky 2H counter hit slow down and the opponent basically falls to the ground. This is the first combo variation. Like if I do a normal hit, I'm gonna put it to Genji. So if you do a normal hit combo, like in Namaya's case, this is what she can get, not this one. Almost. 'Yeah, she can basically get 3.7k off of a standard jump in, off of a standard off of a just normal jump. But if she gets a counter hit, oh shit, kinda spoil what's coming. $5.1, and my combo limit didn't fill out that much, so that is a good thing. Like in theory, I could extend my combo further. Now, this obviously depends on how many resources do you have. For instance, like in this case, I had 100 meter, but if I only have 30, like even if I got a counter hit, I don't think I could do much more. Like I could do this variation, but yeah, I mean, I'm like grasping at straws. Most importantly, you need also to watch out for the range of your anti-air, because if I mean, you kind of already saw it, but if I do an anti-air that hits very far, this follow-up works, but the rest doesn't. So practice these scenarios, because they will happen. You are not guaranteed to land a point blank 2H every time. You are not guaranteed to land a DP every time. Come on, thank you. Also, speaking of DPs, light DP is always air blockable. It does not, I mean, the best use you could find for it, I guess, is combo filler, if applicable. Medium DP has some invincibility and is air blockable, but HDP isn't. And UDP obviously is air unblockable as well. So yeah, that is the most basic scenario of anti-airs. Now you need to watch out for the situations. You need to take into account the situations where you probably should not anti-air, or at least alter the way that you do these anti-airs. The first case is a cross-up. So for instance, in Namaya's case, when she's in hold on. So in Namaya's case, when she's in Genji, she cannot anti-air cross-ups. Like unless I explicitly delay my button, this is gonna whiff, and by the time I have delayed my button, I will gonna get hit. However, when I'm in Kagura stance, then it doesn't matter. Then cross-ups will be denied nearly all the time. The second case, where you should at least be very watchful of your anti-airs, is the super jumps, for a very simple reason. The jump arc is much higher than the normal jump. I mean, it's in the name, it's a super jump. So what you may end up with is a super jump cross-up that will obviously, again, depending on the character, but most likely you will never be able to deny. One specific case that you could try to swat out is when a super jump happens and the opponent lands right in your face. But at this point, I mean, it's on them, to be honest. Like, why would you even do that? A frequent scenario that you will encounter also is what we call safe jumps. Now, what are safe jumps? They are essentially, I'm gonna ask for an HDP on wake up. So essentially, what a safe jump is when you do specific setups. Usually that would be, for instance, after a throw. If you time a jump right after a throw, in throw's case, that is a super jump that you need to time. I'm gonna do that in the corner. So in the case of doing a throw in the corner, you can jump straight after that, and you can press a heavy jump normal, and you will be completely safe from the DP. So what you just did is a safe jump, and what you as the defender should do is simply respect the safe jump when it happens. There are ways to tell there are ways to tell that the save jump isn't a correct save jump. In which case, like for example, if I delay too much, like that in the corner, like I was a little late on my jump after the throw, and thus I fumbled my save jump. That is a correct save jump in comparison. Now, it was blocked because it is an HDP, but usually UDPs beat save jumps. Now again, this is usually, it is a whole topic in and of itself, which I will not delve into. Another option that you could attempt is the air throw. So if your opponent is jumping, let's say I'm gonna ask Katarina to do this. So you could attempt an air throw, like if you either as a read, yeah, most likely as a read, because you're gonna have a tough time reacting to your jump to the jump in with an air throw. So if I ask her again, yeah, I can get to her. I need to be already jumping before the air throw happens. It is a low risk, low reward option, but I guess you could go for it if you wanted to assert dominance.
Don't act rashly.
What you also need to watch out for is the opponent basically jumping outside of your effective range. So this is, for instance, this is, let's say Narmaya's 2H. And what a cognizant opponent can do is just jump. Wait, no, if we do this, this. So if I space it out a little, if I space it, I cannot reach her because she simply jumped out of my range. Again, cognizant opponents will try to test you this way to see if you bite, or if you know your thing, or if you basically know your range. So yeah, do not attempt to anti-air that, otherwise you're wide open for a punish. So what I forgot to mention is one very important thing. There are quite a few moves in this game where you should ideally not block. Instead, you should spot dodge and then punish, and you shouldn't even anti-air. For instance, there's Zera's ultimate RS, ultimate air dash. So if you can try to anti-air, but this is very difficult because it is very difficult to anti-air. She has a lot of. There's the ultimate skill slowdown that will mess up your timing. She dashes at you very fast, and seems the hitbox is very big. So yeah, you will have a lot of trouble anti-airing that the old-fashioned way. You could try a DP, which, fair enough. But what you can also do, if you DP, you're at an advantage of plus 14, which is respectable, but your opponent is back to neutral. You can also spot dodge it, you're plus 18, you're on the ground, the opponent is in front of you. So even if I disable the counter hit, that is a much better punish than you could have gotten had you just DP'd. So one of these, again, prime examples is Zeta's URS. This is also the case for, let's say, where is, there we go. So for instance, instead you could try to DP. It is very difficult to 2H it. I mean, even I tried, and yeah, it's very difficult, especially if she got the first, especially if she got the first hit. The best you can get off of 2Hing Heavy Thunderbolt is a Clash, and even then after that she is plus and you are minus, so you still have the disadvantage. She's in your face, she's Beatrix, it's almost GG. So the usual counterplay to that is either a DP, again you got 1100 damage, or just, you know, spot dodge, you're +6, you can go on and just... Also, you should probably do the technical, the shortcut DP, because you need to react very fast, first of all, and you might get a Setsuna like 236 instead of the 623. So just please just use the shortcut input. It's faster, it's more reliable, it's more consistent. So Andre or Uno or Pringles Man or Funny Gnome or how about that is a kind of special case in and of itself, and it's because of his unique 5U parry. So how the parry works is, when it obviously parries a move, it gets cancelled immediately, allowing Andre to punish whatever was parried. The thing is, he also has a lot of air options, like the dive kicks, like this, for example, this dive kick, this delayed dive kick, this kind of sort of instant dive kick, and this helicopter dive kick that travels all of the screen, on top of his 6U that travels straight forwards, on top of his also sort of 3U, I think it's 3U, that basically dive kicks him with yet another dive kick. So is he anti-airable? I would say yes, but be extremely careful, because the first thing he can do is, wait, are my recordings correct? That's not what I want. Okay, cool. So he can jump in at you and parry you once, so I'm gonna try to time it. So, and as you can see, as soon as he lands, he's still +6, the move is still his, the turn is still his, and also technically, like, he can still punish me as soon as he parries me. The other things he can do, like he can parry many times. I mean, it makes sense, like as soon as you confirm your first parry, you can immediately go into another parry. So for instance, I can do this, and both moves get parried. And this is what we call an RPS situation, a rock, paper, scissors, or in layman's terms, a guessing game. How many parries will Andre throw out? How many moves do you have to counter his eventual parries? And who's going to be the winner of this interaction? And there's no way, like, to predict, like in a vacuum, there's no way to predict what each of the opponents is gonna do. Now, obviously, the golden rule of this presentation is that the punishes are character dependent. So for instance, I have this clip courtesy of Gion's Zeta, usually what you could get off of a card guess would be a simple DP, like if you're playing a Shota, for instance. But if you're privileged like Zeta, you can get this full combo into SSPA for a grand total of 6.7k. just because you guessed correctly against Andre. So, again, because of the recording messing up, there are a lot of questions that have been asked and that I answered to, but again, they were not recorded, so I'm gonna go over them again. The first question was, how do we feel about air blockable NTRs into blockable ones if we got ideas? Like basically, is it a good idea to go for an unblockable setup over, with just a standard NTR? My answer was, there's no, depends on what you want. If you want side points, you can go for the unblockable setup. If you just want to relax and be straight to the point, then just NTR and call it a day. Do you know another normal I could do as Charlotte for anti-airing? Maybe close heavy. And then we saw the hitbox together. And yes, like even close heavy is kinda bad, but it is what it is. Like it's at this point it's just Charlotte. What else? What is a good character to train NTRs? Or did you plan to talk about it later? Well, that was like 5 hours ago, and we did talk about this. The answer was you practice with your own character, ideally, because like I'm most familiar with Shotos, so 2H and DP and such, but obviously not all characters in this game are Shotos. And even among the Shotos, there are variations in terms of range, in terms of reach, in terms of width, in terms of height. So you can't, practice using one single character. You need to get familiar with your character, with what they can do, what they can't do. And basically, yeah. Because at the end of the day, if I let's say practice 2Hs with Narmaya and I try to apply them with Vas, I'm gonna have a very bad time. Is NTR one of those things you would consider by logic? It's fine. What I mean is that great players can let someone get away with things once or twice, yet usually it is meant to be cut there. Would you say good NTR is one of those things that got to be nailed the benchmark, like taking throws or take the stand guard, aka overhead block flying once or twice or 3 times? So basically the question was, is it, like the way I understood it is it fine to miss out on a few NTRs? And to that, I answer absolutely. The thing is, in a real game, you will have a lot to think about. Like in training mode, you can just 2H to your heart's content, which, it's fine, it's cool, you're getting practice and all that. But in a real game, you have a live opponent who will move, who will throw attacks, who will try to bait you with stuff, who will try to jump. So you don't have the time to watch for everything, so you need to react to his jumps. Which leads me to say that there will be times where you will miss out on the jump, or maybe react too late, or maybe 2H too late. This will definitely happen. And this is, anti-airing is a skill. Anti-airing is definitely a skill. You will be bad at it. You will fumble. You will pass up on anti-air opportunities. Then you will start doing 2H, and then you will start doing better 2Hs, better conversions, and so on and so forth. I feel like next question. I feel like using 2H isn't enough of a threat to discourage my opponent to keep from jumping. I kinda see the best thing to do is to learn to convert from it. But while I'm trying to learn, can I do something to reinforce my conditioning as an alternative? And the thing is, you have to be your opponent has to be aware that whatever he's doing is dangerous for him. If I keep jumping and you beat my jump, I can go 2 ways. I can go two ways about that. I can either start to alter my jump, and then you will have to prove to me that you still can beat these options. If you can beat these options as well, then I will most certainly dial the jumps back, and you will have conditioned me. But until you prove to me that you can answer to my every single challenge, so to speak, I will keep jumping and I will keep testing you. Well, the first time usually not, then they adapt to my defense there, so I think I can reframe, I guess. Is it one of those things that should not work first time or should not work the third time? It should not work the third time. Like at some point your opponent has to stop and maybe throw a jump and like send the jump every now and then just to see if you're still if you're still awake. But at some point you have to beat him, you have to stop him from jumping. How do you feel about running under a side swap? Is it realistically hard for a jumper to do cross-up button instead of jumping button on reactions? If you jump round start and try to run under them, so the question was, if we're getting cross-up, if I'm getting crossed up, is it easier to run under the cross-up? The answer is, well, first of all, it depends. How early is the cross-up button? How big is the cross-up button? I personally never had someone like jump, wait for my reaction, and then press a button, because by that time he would either be anti-aired, or it's too late and I've run away already. How do I differentiate between normal jumps and safe jumps? Well, we mentioned that safe jumps, basically, there are situations where what your opponent is doing is a safe jump, so you just have to hold block and respect him. There are situations where there are fake safe jumps, so if there was some delay or maybe the frame data didn't allow him to do a safe jump. So you need to be aware of these situations. You need to be aware of the universal safe jumps, and then start noticing the fake safe jumps from there. How do we feel about running for anti-airs? A general rule of thumb, or just walk them down? Okay, anti-airing back jumps, or is it fine to take space? I always advocate to use the simple option, which is if your opponent is back jumping, you just take the space. At some point, your opponent is going to be sitting in the corner or near the corner. So let's say Beatrix kept jumping. At some point, your opponent is near the corner, defending against you, and it's on them to get out of the corner, in which they shouldn't have been in the first place. Another way of answering this question is, why would you even back jump? So yeah, basically, always take the space that is available to you. And that's on them. That's on them in the end. What else? Yeah, safe jumps are often after hard knockdowns. About matchups, learning to anti-air Charlotte would probably need a training on its own. Do you even do it at all on her besides DPs? It's risky. I would just DP. I would just stay safe and DP. There are characters that need specific NTR training, so you could practice these specific scenarios, but you need to get your basics down. Like a wise person once said, you shouldn't learn to run before you learn to walk. You deal with the normal you deal with the normal NTS, and then you start branching out to fancy situations, fancy setups, like Charlotta's jumps or Charlotta's special demon flip. Do moves recover with different frames upon landing, or frame that just makes it so landing takes longer? To that, I say there are some universal rules, like jump lights are always like they have infinite active frames and they nearly instantly recover. There are moves that have a specific, specific recovery frames, but it's a character dependent thing. And I think those are all the questions. But yeah, remember, anti-air timing takes time to properly implement. There is so much happening around you. There's so many things you need to take into account. You will need time to get it, but eventually, with time, with practice, with patience, you will get it. Thank you so much for listening. Sorry for the hiccups in the recording. The NVIDIA recording thing kind of did me dirty there, but you live and learn. Also, join the EU Training Grounds Discord if you're not in there. Link in the description. Thank you for everybody who was there and everybody who helped me set up this presentation. On the screen right now is the thread in the forum that you are welcome to join to talk about NTR specific things, like how do you deal with this move, how do you beat this move, or if you just want to send a funny clip or clip you are proud of, or just send it to my DMs as well. That's fine by me. In any case, thank you for watching. Thank you for following, and see you. Bye.